All right. Happy New Year's, everybody. There's another edition of the Sunday Post. You know, this is the New Year's extravaganza. So do we put it. First on the chopping block, New Year's resolutions. You know, don't get me wrong, I like New Year's and I like the idea that people are going to honestly take a look at themselves and see how they can do their life better, be better people, and everything like that. You know, that's always good, but most of the time it seems like we're making these New Year's resolutions and then before January's up, we violated them. So, you know, that's always kind of been a thing for me. Just, observing other people violate those New Year's resolutions. You know, so again, when you're making your New Year's resolutions, one of the things I'd say is we need to be a little bit more realistic on them. You know, pick something you could do, and then stick with it. Or, another better idea, we don't always have to wait till New Year's. If we see something going wrong in our life and, we can do something to change it. I know that with me, there were one or two post-New Year's resolutions I made in my life. So, again, you don't always have to wait till New Year's to decide you want to be a better person. Speaking of which, we rolled in the New Year's. For those of you who don't know, open carry went into effect. And there was blood on the streets in Texas, just like the gun control advocates said. No, not really. But according to one article in the Waco Tribune, there's a bunch of confusion now. All right, so apparently the new open carry law is confusing to certain people. Let me clarify it. Basically, if you have a concealed handgun license in the state of Texas, or even in outside states, Texas recognizes it for the reciprocity agreement, you can now carry openly. Basically in a holster over your shoulder, on your hip, and everything like that. So, other than that, there is no real difference. Now, we're going to continue on in this article because I'm kind of curious to see what type of confusion there is. All right, I agree with the lawmaker. This is a good choice for the state. I guess the author doesn't quite agree. He says that this will hurt retail and tourism to the state. Well, actually, no, it won't. To be honest with you, only way it's going to hurt any sort of retail and tourism is once the misinformation comes out from the gun control movement, which it's bound to do. That's be about the only pain it will. But that will be replaced by people who are in favor of the right to keep and bear arms. They're going to probably be out a little bit more. Now, obviously there might be some places that post a 30-07 now, and now some open carriers or some people even with a concealed carry license say, well, you know what, you don't want me there with my gun, you don't want my business. And I can understand a little bit of the fear of open carry, if you don't really know much about it or know much about it on the subject. But all this law does is just basically say if you have a concealed carry license, you can now open carry. That's all it says. Pretty much, you could strap like I've got with my Sig P226, you can strap that on the hip. I put the holster on and everything like that, obviously, to do the video. That would be carrying in a lawful manner now, if provided you have a license. So, again, we'll continue on down this article here. So, as this person who wrote the article goes on to say, is that the law creates a lot of confusion. Well, no, it doesn't. On the issue of open carry, it's really no different than concealed carry. The only thing is that when you're open carrying, well, out on your hip, it's out in the open, you can see it. Whereas concealed carry, you can't. I know this person in the article mentions, well, how do cops go up and tell, if you're open carrying lawfully, or if you have a permit to carry lawfully, is what he's getting at, or it's basically accusing of suspicion of crime. Well, guess what? The fact of the matter is that somebody out there who's going to actually use a gun in a crime, well, they're going to be carrying it concealed most likely anyway, and they're not going to be having a permit to do so, or they don't have a permit to do so. So you've got a moot point, is pretty much what it boils down to. And by the way, in a traffic stop, again, laws are no different. At a routine traffic stop, if you're carrying concealed, you already have to present your permit and inform the officer you're carrying. It's be no different than an incident of open carry. So there you have it. But you're going to sit there. But the question that gun control advocates are going to bring up is like, well, how do we know he's not planning on committing a crime with that gun? That he's open carrying. Well, same with concealed carry. Usually the people that went through the process to get the license are good law-abiding citizens, and they're doing what they need to make sure they're compliant with the law before carrying. Now, you're talking about a criminal. Well, hell, a criminal isn't going to be carrying openly to begin with. They are the last people that want to advertise that they're carrying, usually. And even those that do, well, you're not going to stop them by restricting law-abiding citizens. Sorry, it's never worked. Hey, look at this article here in Chicago. Yeah, a lot of good state, federal, and local laws did to stop that. And, of course, gun control advocates are obviously going to blame it on gun purchases from Gary, Indiana. Well, I hate to break it to you, but there's already a law against selling a pistol to somebody from another state, or giving a pistol to somebody from another state. If I'm an Indiana resident, I can't sell this pistol to a resident of Illinois. Not legally. Anyway. So, what more do you want? It's already illegal. Let's take what this NBA player has to say. Okay, this Knicks player is talking about gun control after his friend was shot outside a strip club in Queens, New York. Haven't you figured it out already yourself, is what I'd like to ask him. You're talking about a city with draconian gun laws. Yeah, can't get a pistol there without a license, and even getting that pistol license is a pain in the ass process. You have all these draconian gun laws on what type of pistol you can own, what its magazine capacity can be, etc., etc., etc. Their carry laws there, I guarantee you, are draconian. It wouldn't shock me to find out, and I can do so with a quick Google search, on where their gun-free zones are in New York, by law. And I'm more than willing to bet you by law, strip clubs are gun-free zones. In fact, in a lot of states where there's a place where businesses have on-consumption alcohol sales, not saying that this strip club did or did not, but in a lot of those places, those are gun-free zones. A lot of strip clubs are gun-free zones. So, how can this happen? Well, criminals just don't happen to obey laws. And you can sit there and blame this on southern states, such as Virginia. I know Mayor Bloomberg likes to blame a lot of his gun problems on Virginia. But here's the thing. If you're a Virginia resident, you cannot sell a gun to a New York resident. If you're an FFL, the laws were even more draconian. I.e., you have to give that person a background check. They have to be a resident of your state before you can sell them a pistol. So we already have these laws that are supposed to stop bad guys from getting guns. Here's the thing. Criminals, don't know how many times it has to be said, don't give a damn about the law. They're going to find ways to break the law. They want to kill you. They're going to find either a way to get a handgun or another weapon to kill you with. They want to go and assault somebody. They're going to find a way to do it. Doesn't matter what laws you put on the books. All the laws that we could possibly have passed to prevent this, we've passed them already. And yes, my opinion, I think more so. So, back on the topic of the Waco Tribune. All right, and the author goes on to reiterate that confusion is the biggest emotion out there. And I say, well, that confusion is only the biggest emotion out there to the gun control advocates who want to push it, and to many of their sheep-like followers who don't really know what to believe, don't want to go out and look at the information themselves, and just want to sit there and be confused, just for the sake of being confused, and just for the sake of demanding more gun laws, even though they don't know what gun laws are on the books, and they don't know what gun laws are being proposed or what they'll do. And that last paragraph goes on to show just how ridiculous this sounds. Hey, this law didn't change any of the laws on gun-free zones. Sorry. Now, if you're talking about the issue of seeing somebody openly carrying now, and now they've got a gun and you want to catch them just as soon as they cross the boundary into a gun-free zone, well, you couldn't have done that with a concealed carrier quite so easily. Well, then that becomes an issue, doesn't it? But again, leave it to the gun control advocates to now all of a sudden start worrying about where the gun-free zones end and where the gun-free zones begin. It's only when they can use it to criticize a restriction being lifted. Okay, the first two paragraphs are a statement on Whataburger CEO, or made by Whataburger CEO, and their decision to ban open carry on their property. Now, again, that's their property, and I guess I can understand why they want to ban open carry, but still keep concealed carry. So I can kind of understand that position there. But the damning part on that one is the fact that most people who are opposed to this, well, they're just scared at the sight of a firearm. They don't really care if somebody who's a criminal is actually stopped from carrying. They're more concerned about just seeing a gun to begin with. So again, it shows you the emotional mindset of gun control advocates and people who tend to favor gun control. Now, the next few paragraphs, it makes it pretty clear on what you have to do if you want to prevent concealed handgun license holders from entering your property with a firearm. For concealed carry, it's the 30-06 form. For open carry, it's the 30-07 form. And of course, the law's pretty clear on that one. Because, I mean, again, you might want to ban one but not the other. I can see certain establishments now wanting to ban concealed carry but not open carry. But more likely what they're going to want to do is ban open carry and not concealed carry. So that's why they had the two separate signs. And that's why you've got to be specific. And for somebody to say that that's such a huge step, that's so confusing, or that stores and restaurants aren't going to have the resources to post those signs, that's just a bullshit statement. That's a cop-out right there. It's not that hard to figure out the law. If you really want to prevent a license holder from carrying on your property, both concealed and openly, then it shouldn't be too hard for you to get those signs. And again, here's an example of a gun control advocate being very dishonest with you on this. They'll sit there and tell you can buy a gun like that. You can buy a gun easier than you can buy vegetables. Even if you're a concealed handgun license holder in the state of Texas, you still have to fill out a 4473 to purchase a firearm from an FFL. When was the last time you had to fill out some forms to purchase vegetables? Here you go. I mean, to get a permit to carry a pistol in the state of Texas, you got to go through some classes. You got to get some background checks done. You got to get your fingerprints done. You got to know the law. And that's the same if you're a concealed carry holder or a license holder from another state who's coming into Texas, temporarily, and Texas recognizes your license. You're still obliged to know the laws on concealed carry. So I don't think it's too much to ask a business who truly wants to prohibit concealed carriers or open carriers or both from entering their property to post the proper documentation. I don't know, and me, I would prefer it be that way because, what? I want to take my, if somebody's that against me carrying concealed on their property, well, they just tell me they don't want my business and they don't want my money. And I would rather go do business with a restaurant or a store that is cool with me carrying, that does have no problem with me carrying on their property. So that's my personal opinion on it. But the Waco Tribune did actually release a pretty good editorial. At least from the title of this, it seems like it's going to be a pretty good editorial. So I want to look into it a little bit. Okay, so again, I don't necessarily agree with everything that's posted in this article, but the headline, it is thought provoking, and they make a good point. Even though I don't like the way they kind of presume that the majority of gun owners, even a statistically significant amount of gun owners, law-abiding gun owners, are going to act this way, or going to act irresponsibly. But I do agree that, yes, if we all act responsibly about this law can be a great success. And that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, it can be a success for showing people that, you know, can carry guns and they are responsible enough to do so. It can be a success in being a deterrent from criminals. It could give would-be criminals a very big reminder that, yes, there are people that carry guns. While some of them open, there are probably some that carry them concealed too. And, again, if you're a CHL holder, 99 out of 100 times, actually more than 99 out of 100 times, you're a good, responsible person anyway, and nobody has to worry about you. Not to say that there aren't a few jackasses, but those numbers are few and far between. And guys, if you're one of those jackasses, you know who I'm talking about. Well, dude, you're not doing us any favors. I'll give you an example. A few days ago, there was one jackass that was calling up a store. I'm not even sure the dude had a CHL. But he's talking about, when the open carry law goes into effect, can he openly carry there, and he's getting into it with the store manager. What I wanted to do, and I didn't do it, but I wanted to take the phone from the store manager and say, hey, look, dude, do you have a CHL? Does this store have a 30-07 posted? You should already know the answer to that question. And you should. The fact of the matter is that you should know the answer to that question already. If you have a CHL, it's a pretty simple question to answer. On that note, yes, I understand that there are going to be some confusion from time to time here or there. And if you're a CHL holder, you should have an account with Texas Law Shield. You don't know who they are, look them up. And get yourself a membership there. Trust me. Once you get yourself that membership there, they do have attorneys that you can call to ask questions. And believe me, they'd rather answer your question and keep you out of trouble and and stop the issue before it becomes a major problem, rather than having to answer that question after the fact. Once it has become an issue. So, guys, there are resources available if you truly don't know. With that being said, yes, I do believe that this law is going to be a good thing, and I have full faith that everybody who's a CHL holder who chooses to open carry, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm probably still going to keep mine concealed. There are several reasons for that. Again, there are also advantages to open carry too. I don't want to knock that. I'll probably still continue to keep mine concealed though. So hopefully that cleared everything up on open carry. And the other caveat to that I wanted to put out. One such business that will not be allowing concealed carry or open carry, and will be doing everything they can to comply with the law. AMC theaters. I believe that's the one in Waco. But Anywho, I got to congratulate them at least on their honesty and their willingness to follow the law. But at the same time, uh, you don't want me carrying concealed in your business. Well, you don't want my business. Okay, well, so while news for gun rights in Texas was pretty good, news for gun rights in California wasn't quite so good. You see, the new, as they call it, gun violence restraining order has been put into effect here. How many mass shootings will this prevent? Probably none. I mean, this law was a reaction to a mass shooting. But funny thing about mass shootings is that we don't seem to think that these things are going to happen until they do. And I assure you that's not going to be the last restriction California puts on firearms. Now, ways that this law can be abused, well, hell. Domestically violent partners can get their significant others' guns removed just long enough to take away their means for protection, before they go and commit their murder or their assault against this said person. And if you don't believe that you can't find any anti-gun judges in California who will simply go off the word, well, I think this person may be violent, without any other evidence, then you're pretty naive. Yeah. Furthermore, all this law is going to do is serve to reinforce that you really don't have a right to guns, to own a firearm, and the state can come in and revoke that right anytime that they see fit. Ah, damn. And I know there are a lot of avid gun owners in California. But the thing is, you guys, don't hold enough weight in that state to prevent this stuff from happening. So, I mean, guys, you got to get out there and start fighting. And you've got an uphill battle in California, too. So, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but get out there, start opposing regulations, or the restrictions that they're putting on there, because they are ridiculous restrictions, one. Two, get out there, teach your kids to shoot. Get out there, teach other people to shoot. Get out there wherever you can and try to encourage other people to become gun owners. Because that's about the only way you're going to have any sort of shot at preserving what few gun rights you have left there. Again, guys, I feel pretty sorry for you. And when you start giving up basic rights, in the name of political correctness or, in the name of people's feelings, well, yeah, don't just lose those rights, you lose that and more. California also enacted a new gender wage gap law. Well, under this law, among many things, now they have to pay you the same, not exactly for the same work, but things that they deem similar. And, stuff like location, it cannot be a factor in it anymore. So, say, you got one store clerk making $10 an hour in the safer side of town. You can't pay them. You can't pay the other store clerk who works down a block away in the bad area of town anymore, for working in a bad area of town. Among the other thing, and probably the worst aspect of this law, is that should a female employee sue, there's nothing sexist about that at all. It's now the employer's burden, responsibility to put the burden of proof out that they don't pay different for different jobs based solely on gender. Meaning they have to prove, the burden of proof is on them that they weren't discriminating against one employee. And if you don't see how this is bothersome, you don't see how this goes against the tenets of a free society, then you really don't understand what a free society is. Again, is this going to have any positive effects on California's economy? Their already crappy economy? No. What it will do is, and you guys are going to see it, it will kill jobs in California. It will make their economy worse. It will open the door to a bunch more frivolous lawsuits, a bunch more criminal charges, and it will just de-incentivize California businesses from hiring people, or it'll put more preference on women. Nothing sexist based solely on their gender. There's nothing totally sexist about that. And here's the thing. We've already had plenty of people move from California to Texas, as well as from New York to Texas, because they can't find work there in their own home states anymore. And yet they want to come here and tell us how backwards things are. Well, if we're so backwards, why is it that you can only make a decent living here and you can't in your home state if your home state's got it right? Please, Texas, we need to pass a law stating that, if you're a Californian or a New Yorker, we need to screen you before you come here, just to make sure you're not one of those parasites that can't find a job in your own home state because you supported the same policies that fucked up your own home state's economy. Right. So, unless you've been living under a rock in this debate, then there's no doubt you've already heard of Obama's proposals to use executive action to reclassify those who sell more than 50 or more privately owned firearms in 1 year, or anybody who rents a booth out at a gun show. They want to reclassify them as a dealer as well, meaning they have to get a license and perform background checks federally. You see, guys, again, I never want to hear another Democrat tell me that Republicans don't give a damn about the Constitution, because Democrats don't seem to give a damn about the Constitution either. See, we already have laws in place that determine what a dealer is and what the point is to where you need to get a license to sell firearms, right? Now, if you're not a dealer, and you're just a gun collector or trader, then it's not uncommon for you to sell a firearm here to buy another firearm. It might very, very well a possibility you set up a booth at a gun show one time to sell some of the firearms you don't want in order to get money to buy the firearms you do want. So that's not uncommon. And in fact, I mean, setting up a booth at a gun show ever so often is a good way to sell the guns that you don't want to people that may want them in order so you can buy more of the guns you want. You see, again, not uncommon for the hardcore collector. Now, if you want to do that, Obama wants to not even use Congress to write a law. He knows he doesn't have the support in Congress because just maybe, 90% of Americans don't support his proposal and don't support those reasonable gun control measures after all. You know, hell, if 90% of Americans supported that, we'd have a constitutional amendment right now for that. But the fact of the matter is he doesn't have the support. He knows it. Congress knows they don't have the support. That's why they don't pass that law. You know, and yet, because he doesn't have that support, he's still going to use executive action to do that. And if you don't understand how that crosses a line, that's not really executive action, that's just writing a law, an unconstitutional law at that, from the executive office, well then, you really haven't read the Constitution too much. You really don't know what's in it now, do you? And you're probably one of the last people that should be voting. Because people like Obama bank on this. That you either A, you don't know what's in the Constitution, or B, you don't give a damn enough about the Constitution to really make a difference. My friends, I think we can kind of see the mentality of the Democrat Party on this issue. It's what they want. They don't give a damn what the Constitution says. That's obvious. They don't give a damn about what the people really want. That is also obvious. You know? So, there you have it. If you're still voting Democrat, well, you don't really care much about the Constitution now, do you? You know? And I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect, but right now, where I sit, it looks like the Republicans have a better idea, or have, at least made an effort to pretend they care about the Constitution a little bit more than the Democrats do. Okay, so in my previous video of Fighting Chance, I came out to ask everybody to support the GOA financially, if possible, you know, or any sort of support really, on the challenge on the 1986, on the post-1986 machine gun ban. You see, under our current laws, yes, in a state it's legal. You can purchase a machine gun as long as it's manufactured prior to 1986. What this challenge will do, if they are able to be successful in getting this ban repealed and ruled unconstitutional, is it will give us a Supreme Court ruling saying that outright bans are unconstitutional. And guys, machine guns are probably the most protected class of firearm under the Second Amendment. You know, stuff with a military purpose, military weapons are the most protected under the Second Amendment. So it only makes sense that we repeal the outright ban on them. Now, should this ban get repealed, here's what's going to happen. Machine guns will get put back into, the machine guns manufactured after 1986 will get put back into the NFA Title II category. Which means you still have to go through the NFA Title II process to purchase them. They won't be near as expensive as they already are. And anybody who doesn't know anything with selective fire capability is expensive. Well, you've never tried, or you never even looked at the price of them. But here's the thing, I mean, we do need to get this ban repealed. And if we get this ban repealed by the Supreme Court, hopefully that will be enough to prevent another assault weapons ban. Because we'll have a Supreme Court ruling right here. Hey, we're legally allowed to have machine guns. The ban on machine guns is unconstitutional. Therefore, you cannot put a ban on semi-automatics that simply look like machine guns. And there's a big significance right there. It's a chance to regain a freedom we've lost. I don't know about you, but there's several models of firearms that I'd love to have. It's just I know I can't legally get them. And I'm sure a lot of other people would love to have some of those post-1986 machine guns. We do have a chance to change the course and how this country goes. We have a chance to show that we can regain some of our freedom we've lost. Don't you think it's time we do that? As for a comment left by a troll, I'm going to answer the question again. Minimum wage jobs are minimum wage jobs exactly for that reason. Working the deep fryer is not hazardous duty like, say, doing a king crab fisherman job or a commercial driver job. You see, those require skill. It's not like working on the railroads. It's not like working on an oil field. No, it's not like being a law enforcement officer or a soldier on the battlefield. And just getting a little bit of a drop or two of grease on you from the hot fryer is not the same as catching a bullet or getting in an automobile accident or getting yanked off the boat or thrown off the boat in sub-zero temperatures where, you will die within a few minutes of being submerged in that. It's not like driving an 80,000-pound vehicle that takes 2 football fields to stop. And, yes, you can kill yourself or somebody else quite easily in one of those things. It's not like that at all. You're talking about working jobs like at McDonald's and stuff like that. While the jobs do serve a purpose, they're not the same. They're not the same as working in a factory. They're not the same as working in a warehouse where you're dealing with thousands of pounds worth of gear. They're just not. They're not the same as working on a railroad where, every day is a challenge to stay alive. It's just simply not that. You're not working with a great deal of hazardous material. You're just simply not. It doesn't take a great deal of skill to do a job at McDonald's. That's why high school students do the job. That's why a lot of part-time workers do the job. It doesn't take much skill. You know, a job is generally not a career. It's a job you do until you find a better job. You know, it's a job you do to show your parents that you've got some responsibility. You know, to bring in a little extra cash for yourself while you're going through high school so you can afford that car you wanted. You know, while you're living at home with mom and dad. Or maybe it's so you can save up money for college, or save up money. Start early in life saving up money. Start early in life getting some work experience. So employers that you might encounter in the future are going to be more likely to hire you. You know? It's something productive you can do while going through college. It's not supposed to be a career field. You know? That's just the fact of the matter. Okay, so I don't know how 2015 was for y'all. For some, it was a good year. For others, it was a horrible year. And some, it was bittersweet. Some, it was blah. You know, some, it was, well, the same old year as, usual. You know, it varies. But what I got to ask everybody else is, what are your plans going forward in 2016? You know, I know we've made our New Year's resolutions. You know, at least I know a lot of us have made at least one New Year's resolution. Well, what's your plan going forward? How do you plan to keep that New Year's resolution? Moreover, I mean, even if you didn't make a New Year's resolution, what are you going to do to better your life and better your situation? Not what you can expect everyone else to do for you, but what can you do for yourself? Now, this choice doesn't always come easy, and a lot of the times it involves a sacrifice here or there. It involves you getting up and actually doing something. Put everyone else to the side. Don't expect everyone else to do for you, but to do for yourself. Go forward and make 2016 a better year for yourselves. All right, y'all take her easy out there. Okay, so I wasn't going to end this without putting out this little bonus here. I mean, it is New Year's. So, one of my 2015 New Year's resolutions was, that I was going to kick back and relax a little bit more, try to have a little bit more fun in life. I know I spend a lot of my time focusing on work, which is why I have at least some money and some cash to do some of the things I like. So I decided that 2015 I was going to try to do a little less drinking, and a little more something like and something else, to try to have fun, And that's where I kind of got into flying quadcopters. Went out and did a little bit more kayaking, didn't do as much camping, that's kind of a failure on my part. Didn't go to the range as much as I'd like to have. Still went, but just not as much as I'd like to have. It's still been a busy year, nonetheless. I think I did end up finally getting a video game console this year. Actually I did. So, I'd say I did take a step in the right direction to complete this New Year's resolution. Yeah, even though it's been a while since I've been out in my kayak, flown my quadcopter, or touched a video game console, uh, at least I put out the effort. And you know what? It was definitely interesting. All right, so you guys take her easy now.